Magic City Comic-Con here at the Miami Airport Beach Convention Center, and it's Guy Hutchinson, and he is Mr. Disney. You're Mr. a lot of things. What I thought was really cool, going on the wrestling theme, is that you actually did a panel on Lucha movies.
Yes.
And you're a host of Camel Clutch Cinema.
Yes,
so the first thing I'll ask you is, tell us about Camel Clutch Cinema.
Camel Clutch Cinema is a podcast I do with a gentleman named Craig Cohen, and all we do is watch a movie that has a wrestler in it or has a wrestling match in it, and then we talk about it. And there's so many movies that have wrestlers in it, and there's so many that people love. You know, you have Princess Bride with Andre the Giant, you have every movie The Rock has done, and then there's the luchador films, and those are my favorites.
Some of the luchadors that we're going to go back to Mil Mascaras, and we're also going to El Santo,
yes,
which was very, very religious in El Santo in his wrestling persona, and being a good guy, but also there was also always a lot of religion overtones with the lucha characters and their masks.
Yeah.
What was that like, and some of the insight there?
They were there was a really weird thing where their mask was so important and sacred to them that you would hear stories about El Santo would wear his mask everywhere. And so when he would go to the airport to fly to go to a match, he'd have to take a different flight so that way he could travel without his mask. And he was great. He did a lot of movies with Blue Demon. And the story, the way I hear it, is that Blue Demon got injured. El Santo was having contractual problems. So Mil Mascaras was a wrestler they created. He was the first wrestling character created for the screen, and then he became one of the most famous Mexican wrestlers of all time. But the idea of 1,000 masks, you know, that he was going to be able to, you know, have all these different masks and be a superhero. And we looked at, when we did our panel here, we looked at his first film, which was 1966, and that was a very, you know, low budget kind of film. And they said it was such a big hit, they went back in and did this like high budget one where he's flying a plane with his mask on, which I can't imagine is FAA, you know, appropriate. He's fighting crime, he's driving a car, you know, they're doing all kinds of crazy stunts, and all of it always with the mask on, eating with the mask on, playing chess with the mask on.
Were those movies, especially the Lucha movies, right, these were not really wrestling movies.
No.
These were stories. These were, most of them were that they were the hero, but they were fighting crime or fighting villains.
Some of them, a lot of them were superhero type movies, but some of them they'd be like almost like police officers, like detectives, you know, they'd be, you know, investigating something. Some of them would get very strange. They had a lot of like Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, you know, they had a lot of characters like that. We covered one, I think it was, I don't know how anything's pronounced because I don't know Spanish, but it's Super Zan, you know, super and then Z-A-N, and that one was full-on superhero. I mean, he was a superhero and a luchador. We also saw one which was Batwoman, which was a total DC Comics knockoff. She had the Batman costume right down to the painted on eyebrows like Adam West, and they did the cool like bang and pow kind of stuff. Just, I love those movies though. They're so fascinating and so interesting to look at.
When you were doing the panel yesterday, what was it like talking about it, and what things were brought up?
It was great. So everybody that was in the room, everybody that showed up, they kept asking me, they'd say, so are we watching Nacho Libre? Because that was the only one that they knew.
With Jack Black.
Yes, and I said, I love Nacho Libre. I said, well, we're going to watch the real films. And every time I went to another one, people were like, I can't believe there's more of these. You know, we saw El Santo in a movie where he's going through on a safari. And he's in a safari outfit like one would wear if you're going on a safari, but he's got his lucha mask on, and then a leopard attacks somebody on the safari and he has to wrestle the leopard, and every one of them, they got more and more bizarre as you went on. El Santo fighting a cyclops, and you know, lots of go-go dancers in these movies, and then some little people that, you know, in Champions of Justice wrestling against a team of wrestlers, and really, really some far out there stuff. But what was great was Lucha movies cover the entire span of, you got action, you've got adventure, you've got science fiction, you've got fantasy. They would do all different types of movies, and it was really something.
And it was very successful.
Yeah, huge. I mean, they were hugely successful. It was an entire film genre. It was something that went on for years and years.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because Camel Clutch Cinema, you can see the podcast. How can people see it, first of all?
Yeah.
Where would they go? Or they just type in Camel Clutch Cinema?
Yeah, you can just go, Camel Clutch Cinema. If you just look it up, we're out there on everything, just like everybody else. And you can find it on iTunes. And I think the podcast is on YouTube as well, which oddly enough, people seem to love. Like a lot of people seem to watch videos on YouTube, which are just a still picture with audio. But we're out there doing that. And, you can find me at Guy Hutchinson on Twitter and Facebook and all that.
Now, the part I'll put you on the spot
Yes,
is,
sir.
Is there a movie out there, or a couple movies, where you mentioned like The Princess Bride, that you're like, whoa, I didn't know this wrestler was in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I also didn't know that the movie Paradise Alley, I'd never seen it. And I didn't know Sylvester Stallone did a wrestling movie, let alone, a movie that Terry Funk appears in.
Sure, you're going to go Rocky, and then like one of the first movies right after Rocky 1 was Paradise Alley, which didn't do well, but Terry Funk was the villain wrestler in there.
I would love if, like Rocky, there was Sylvester Stallone had done 10 of those, like Rocky and Rambo. I mean, I thought that one was really amazing. There's a lot of guys like H.B. Haggerty, who he was a wrestler who was in a tag team, and then he went to do a lot of work. He was in, if you ever saw the movie Rad, he's the cop with the bald head and the goatee. He was also in the movie $1 Million Mystery, where he played a wrestler. But he was a guy who did more films after his shorter wrestling career. And so it was fascinating to find out that this guy who looked like a wrestler was a wrestler.
I did, a while back, I did a very short piece on wrestlers having roles in movies. And one that came across to me who had a very successful career as a wrestler, but then also was in several movies and some James Bond movies, was Professor Toru Tanaka.
Yes, absolutely he was. Yes, he was in James Bond, and the other one, The Rock's father, was also in a James Bond movie.
Rocky Johnson, and that I did not know.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know Rocky was in
Peter
it.
Maivia.
Oh, the High Chief, his grandfather. That I didn't know. That his grandfather.
He was in one, and Tanaka was Odd Job, throwing the hat. And he said that people hated him after he did that movie. He said nothing he did in the ring made people as mad as the character in that movie. He said it was like people would throw things at him, and it was people were bought into it.
Did you have a favorite?
Out of all the ones I've ever seen,
with the wrestler in there,
my favorite Lucha one is Champions of Justice. Champions of Justice has Mil Mascaras, it has Blue Demon, it has El Santo, and it has tons of other ones. It's the Expendables of luchador films. They got everybody together. They ride motorcycles, and other than that, I love Andre the Giant. So Princess Bride is really one of my favorites because I think Princess Bride is a great movie, and I think Andre's performance is great, and he's not an actor. He certainly wasn't even a guy who could read lines well, but they cast him so perfectly, and he's delightful.
Anything else you want to add about the Lucha movies or Camel Clutch Cinema or anything like that?
I love this convention, Magic City Comic Con. I'm going to be talking about Atari later. I'll be doing Drunk on Disney karaoke later. Tomorrow I'm talking about Disney attraction posters and other things.
You do so much. There's so much that you are involved in.
You know what?
Is Disney your main thing then, or not really?
Well, I love theme parks, and so I wrote a book on Sesame Place, which is a Sesame Street theme park, and I'm just anything that piques my interest, I want to learn everything I can about it, and that's what I love about this convention, is there's so many other people like that here.
I know I gotta end it with this though, but you mentioned that like Champions of Justice type of movie. I'm trying to visualize a bunch of bikers with their masks on going down the street.
It's incredibly dangerous. That is really the best one. If people want to seek one out, that is great.
You wore a mask.
Yes,
you told me this. So tell me that experience and we'll wrap it up with that.
So I did this luchador panel, and I brought a mask to show people, and somebody in the crowd goes, "Put it on," right? This is at the beginning of the panel. So I was like, sure. So I put it on, and then I joked. I said, "I'm going to wear this the whole panel," and I thought I'll go ahead and wear this the whole panel. the mask, the way it constricts your mouth is your mouth is like this the whole time. And so those guys, I don't know how I can understand wrestling in it because you're not opening your mouth, but I don't know how you can act in a movie in those things. It makes those movies seem even more ridiculous. By about the 45-minute mark, I was sweating so much under the mask. You know, my chin hurt, my cheeks hurt, but those movies are great. People should definitely, it's a forgotten part of cinema that people, especially in this country, don't know a lot about, that really more people should.
Well, Guy, thank you for taking some time on this. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was very nice to talk to you.